Hey guys, how you doing today? For time purposes, I'm not going to repeat all the things that I'm going to go over. They are in the description. Um, let's start with control. So, something that is new to the game. I personally really like it. It's helped out a lot on being able to use your skills as much as you want. However, it is a bit of a grind. So, um, if you look at uh, any village, you go to the biggest building in that village. See this building? You gotta find that one in all the villages. Well, not all of them, but whichever one you're in. And when you go into it, you are at your energy control place. There is also one in the VIP that's much easier to find, but that's the gist of what you want to do. Find the biggest building in your village and go inside, and you'll find this guy. Alright, once you're here, you click on him. You can see the information here about what it does or what you're supposed to do. It doesn't actually lose 50 per day once you hit 10,000, and that's the little secret. So you can see I'm at 10,000. I can let this meter drain, it will not take anything from me. That's how it is normally. You just type in the code that you see, and it would go up one. And you have to do that 10,000 times. It is a bit of a grind, but it does make the cost of your skills drop dramatically. I believe my cost for my lava skill was around 4 or 5 grand when I started, and now it is at 2,050. So it's looking good. Anyways, next on that list is stats. I figured this would be a good time to go over them because I recently changed my stats to be able to grind out kills a little bit better where I was at for training my Ganon, which is my Hugo, which is my favorite class. This is an Uchiha, Lava Water. Uchihas are kind of rough. I'll explain builds and classes a little bit in a second. But for the stats, you can hit the question mark in the character info, which is the little wand and book looking thing with a bunch of pluses on it, beside it, underneath the meteor on your right hand side of your screen. And then on that area you'll see damage, your defense, and all that jazz. Your power, your resistance, intelligence, and where you put your stat points in. Now, if you hit the question mark, it tells you what each stat does. This is very helpful as if you look at, like, say, dexterity, cooldown time, speed, and critical chance, but it also does critical damage. So if you are trying to go for a critical build, which in most cases as an Uchiha you're going to want to, well, I shouldn't say Uchiha, you're going to want to go as an Infernalist, and when you get to your critical up to about 100% on base, that's where you want it. I went a little higher on this because I wanted a little better cooldowns, a little higher crit damage. The power is low and the resistance is low because of the fact that I have the lava buff. Now, when you get to level 200, you'll be able to get sub-elements, and I'll explain that in a minute. However, when you use your lava buff, you get defense and attack increase, and it reduces your speed. So if you look at my stats, as I cast the lava buff and I'm moving around, you can see my speed. My speed gets dropped a lot, but my damage and defense goes through the roof. With a high wisdom, which is increased by intelligence, you'll get higher points in your buffs. So for instance, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and hit my defensive buff, get some more, hit my speed buff, which doesn't do anything because I have the negative. Not sure why that is. I'm still trying to figure out a few things. I will have more guides on that. Now, once you get to a good point in your stat area, the thing that you're going to want to think about is stat builds. Now, there's a few of them to go, and there's early and late game. So for early game, you're going to want a decent power, resistance, dexterity, intelligence. You kind of want to spread things out. You don't want to sleep on resistance, so you're not going to be able to tank hits from the creep people you have to kill. The intelligence you want high so you have enough chakra to be able to cast stuff, and the wisdom to be able to get that extra buff. Now, the reason that you shouldn't do such a low power early game when you do not have, say, the lava buff or something to buff your damage, is because you won't be able to kill things that fast, and sometimes things you want to kind of kill fast. The faster you kill, the faster you gain experience. So you just want to gain experience fast, you need to kill fast. Sorry, I'm re-explaining myself, kind of tired. Anyways, so let's move on to the builds for classes. Okay, so different classes run different builds, as I was just explaining earlier. The Infernalists are really good for crit builds. Let's say Energists are really good for damage builds. Let's see, the Sharans are a defensive class. They're really good for locking down people. So if you have a Sharan, you can technically run a lower power if you wanted to, simply because you can keep them stunned if you have a higher dexterity and lower cooldowns on your stuns. And if you can keep them stunned, you take less damage. If you take less damage and you mix that with your rotation, you can survive a lot longer. The medics, you can run medic with 0 power and still be okay. It'll be a little rough getting a good weapon, but if you can get a good weapon, you're set. The medic is amazing, in my opinion. It is definitely one of the better builds to run this new age stat build that a lot of people are running, which is the 0 power builds. Mainly that's ran after level 200 when you get the lava buff. You can drop your power to 0, raise your intelligence high enough that your lava buff makes up for your damage. So when you get to, say, 200, you can rethink your build strategies. But in the early game, it is probably smart to go with water and I'd say try to get a lot of resistance, because you're going to need it for surviving. Late game, you can start thinking about being more diverse in your build when you have your second element and you're doing your thing, or when you get to a high enough level that you feel like you can switch stats up a little bit. I wouldn't suggest going too crazy with curing, as when you drop stats that low, it gets really fishy, really bad. The only reason the 0 works is because for some ungodly reason they decided to make the lava buff so powerful that it gives you several hundred levels in both attack and defense when it's on. If you have a way to stun them with like lightning and they can't get away, and then you lava up and start dumping damage, you can usually wipe people pretty quick, or enemies pretty quick. Now, as far as the sub-elements go, there are 4. You are able to see what the elements are through the change stat elements in the gold bar. That's the Rise Coin shop. You go to elements and it'll show you wind, fire, water, thunder, earth. Those are the main elements, the prime elements. The sub-elements are ice, wood, lava, and sand. Sand is one of my favorites. It's what I run on Ganon. It has a stun that starts off kind of weak and doesn't have a long time on it, but when you get it to a higher level, it is very potent with the stun, and it does really good damage. The wood style I have not used. I know the 2 skills that it comes with, because they all come with 2. Is a wood style buff that surrounds you with like the wood dragon head, and the other attack is a large AoE with high damage. And then the the sub Lava has 2 attacks, the Lava buff and a really powerful AoE attack that isn't as large. Um, and then last but not least is the Ice, my least favorite actually, so it is kind of the least. The Ice element has a AoE damage slash stun. You'll see a large blizzard kind of pop up for a second. That's the range of your AoE. Everything caught in it is hit with a nice set of damage and a slow effect, a slow debuff on all of them. It's really nice in that sense for wars, but if you don't have someone to make use of that to help you out, it's not going to be as good. And it's really not good when trying to solo monsters and such. Now, the other attack is Ice Wolves, and for some reason, they don't seem to be as powerful as the Sand clones, and it really stinks because you would think they did a little bit more because you can only get 2 of them and they have a ranged attack, and you know it looks nice, but it's really lackluster. The sub-element Sand, I forgot to mention, the second skill on that is Sand Clone. You'll have to pull out 5, just like the Energist. If you're running an Energist and you have Sand, you'll have up to 10 clones, which is crazy. And other than that, I think those are set up. And then I already went over the early and late element builds. Let's say I think the 2 best ones to run is probably going to be Lava Water, Lava Lightning, and then there is the other good one that I prefer to run on Ganon, which is Sand and Lightning for a more stun cycle. Other than that, I think that about covers it. The stat build on this character tends as having low resistance and high intelligence, high dexterity, low power. I'm raising the power up to 150, and then I'll probably raise intelligence up to 200 and then 300. And then when I get it to 300, I'll probably start pumping power up. So it is kind of a split build, but you'll understand as you play with the different classes and understand which each one is lacking. You'll understand better of what to use. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to message me on Discord. My tag is hashtag capital V lowercase y I R Z. It'll be in the description. Hit me up. You can also message me on here. I'm not sure how good it'll be at telling me I get them, so sorry for any delays. Again, I will say sorry for the quality. I'm going to try to see if it reduces glare to just simply keep the thing at 720p, because when I raise it up to the 1080i whatever, it tends to create tearing when there's lag, and then it tries to repair it and it just looks like tearing. So we're going to see if that is fixing it. Anyways, hit me up. Love you guys. Bye.